Because before that they were going to travel to the UK as a duo, it was announced by the Sussexes team that they were going to do a series of public events.
Harry's latest trip to the United Kingdom was meant to remind the world of the work he still cares deeply about. It was meant to focus on wounded military veterans, children with serious health conditions, and the countdown to the 2027 Invictus Games in Birmingham. But before the visit had properly begun, the positive message was already being pushed aside. There were disagreements over security, confusion about where Harry would stay, uncertainty over whether Meghan and the children would join him, and another serious setback in court. Reports now claim Meghan watched the situation from the sidelines and felt deeply humiliated. What should have been a proud family visit quickly became what some people close to the situation described as a nightmare week. Yet, just when everything appeared to be falling apart, one private meeting at Highgrove House changed the entire direction of the story. Before we continue with all the surprising details, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on your notification bell so you do not miss our latest royal family news and engaging stories. Your support helps us continue bringing you clear and interesting updates. Prince Harry arrived in Britain on Monday, 6 July, after spending time in Europe with Meghan Markle and their children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. From the outside, his plan appeared straightforward. He would attend events connected to the Invictus Games, visit organizations close to his heart, and possibly create an opportunity for his children to see their grandfather, King Charles. But behind the scenes, the situation was much more complicated. For Harry, returning to Britain has not been simple since he and Meghan stepped back from their duties as senior working royals in 2020. Every journey now raises the same difficult question. Will he and his family receive the level of security they believe they need? Harry has repeatedly said that he does not feel comfortable bringing Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet to Britain without proper police protection. He believes the public attention surrounding his family creates a risk that private protection officers may not be fully equipped to handle. British authorities, however, have maintained that publicly funded police protection cannot automatically be provided to him whenever he enters the country. That disagreement has gone through the courts, and Harry has not received the decision he wanted. Although there may be arrangements made for particular events, he no longer has the automatic police protection he enjoyed when he was a full-time working royal. This was not just a legal argument written on paper. It directly affected the plans for this visit. Meghan and the children were initially expected to join Harry for more of the trip. Meghan was even expected to attend an Invictus-related engagement with him at the Royal Hospital, Chelsea. That would have given the public a rare opportunity to see the Duke and Duchess of Sussex working together in Britain. However, those plans changed. On 4 July, it was announced that Harry would travel to London alone because Meghan and the children would not join him for the London section of the trip. Security concerns were given as the main reason. Suddenly, a visit designed to celebrate the Invictus Games became another public disagreement involving Harry and the royal family. Instead of discussing veterans and recovery, many people were asking why Meghan was not coming, why the children were staying away, and whether the palace had done enough to help. That was reportedly very difficult for Meghan to watch. According to reports, based on unnamed sources, Meghan would have found the public nature of the disagreement humiliating. This does not mean Meghan personally made a public statement saying she was humiliated. She did not. The description came from sources speaking to the media, so it must be treated as a reported feeling and not as a confirmed quotation directly from the Duchess. Still, it is easy to understand why the experience may have been uncomfortable. Meghan has spent years trying to build a life separate from the royal family. She and Harry now live in California with Archie and Lilibet. Meghan has developed her lifestyle business and television projects, while Harry has continued his work with the Invictus Games, charities, and organizations connected to mental well-being. They have repeatedly said that leaving royal duties gave them greater control over their lives. Yet every time they returned to Britain, old disagreements seemed to return with them. This particular visit created another awkward situation over accommodation. Reports suggested that Harry had been offered the possibility of staying at Buckingham Palace during the London part of his visit. According to those reports, Harry accepted the offer, possibly believing that staying at a secure royal property would help to address some of his concerns. But the arrangement was reportedly withdrawn shortly before the trip. The exact details remain disputed, and Buckingham Palace did not publicly explain every private conversation. Nevertheless, the story created an embarrassing picture. Harry appeared to have accepted an offer to stay at a royal residence, only to be told that the arrangement was no longer available. For a prince who grew up inside royal palaces, the situation carried a powerful meaning. Harry was returning to the country of his birth, but he did not appear to know where he would be staying until close to his arrival. That is why this was about more than a bedroom. To Harry's supporters, it looked like another example of the palace keeping him at a distance. They asked how a secure room could not be found for the king's younger son during an important visit. To critics of the Sussexes, the matter looked very different. They argued that Harry chose to leave royal duties and should not expect to receive the same support provided to working members of the royal family. In their view, royal accommodation and publicly funded protection come with public responsibilities. And once again, Harry found himself trapped between two lives. In California, he is an independent public figure who has spoken openly about the difficulties he experienced inside the monarchy. In Britain, he is still the king's son, still fifth in line to the throne, and still connected to a family institution that operates according to strict rules. He wants independence, but he also wants access. He wants privacy, but his name attracts enormous public attention. He wants to protect his wife and children, but returning to Britain means entering an environment they believe has not always treated them fairly. That is the difficult circle Harry has not yet managed to escape. Despite the tension, Harry continued with his schedule. On the evening of his arrival, he made a surprise appearance at the London premiere of a documentary connected to his friend, photographer and filmmaker Meghan Harriman. Harry appeared relaxed and said he was happy to be back in Britain. That short statement was important. Whatever disagreements were happening behind closed doors, he was not going to begin his public visit by complaining. The next day, Harry attended an Invictus Games Foundation conversation at Chatham House in London. The event focused on turning policy into practical support for military veterans and their families. This is where Harry is usually at his strongest. The Invictus Games are not just another item on his public schedule. Harry created the Games in 2014 after witnessing the power of sport in helping injured and unwell military personnel rebuild their confidence and sense of purpose. The project connects deeply with Harry's own life. He served in the British Army for 10 years and completed 2 tours in Afghanistan. He has often said that the military gave him a sense of belonging and structure. When Harry speaks to veterans, he is not simply reading words prepared for him. He understands the jokes, the discipline, the difficult memories, and the strong friendships formed through service. The 2027 Invictus Games will take place in Birmingham, making Harry's visit especially important. The Games will return to Britain, where the first competition was held in London in 2014. That should have been the main story. Instead, Harry received another difficult piece of news. On the 7th of July, Harry and 6 other well-known claimants lost a major legal case against Associated Newspapers Limited, the publisher of the Daily Mail and Mail on Sunday. The claimants had accused the publisher of unlawful information gathering. The court ruled that they had not proved their claims. This was a serious setback for Harry. His long battle with sections of the British press is one of the biggest themes of his adult life. Harry believes certain newspapers behaved unfairly towards him, Meghan, and other members of his family. He has pursued several legal cases, because he says changing the behavior of the press is a matter of principle. The court loss, therefore, carried both financial and emotional weight. Harry had invested time, money, and personal energy in the case. Losing meant that the claimants could face very high legal costs. Some media reports attached an enormous figure to the dispute, but the final financial responsibility should not be treated as settled unless it is officially confirmed. What can be said clearly is that the defeat came at the worst possible time. Harry was already dealing with questions over security. Meghan and the children were not with him in London. His accommodation had become a public issue. Then, while he was trying to promote the Invictus Games, news arrived that he had lost an important court battle. Harry's reaction also created further debate. A statement issued after the decision strongly criticized the outcome and described it as a failure of justice. Some senior legal figures later said the language used against the judgment was not appropriate. They argued that people have every right to disagree with a court decision, but criticism should not appear to question the integrity of a judge without strong evidence. Harry's supporters took another view. They said he had every right to express disappointment after spending years trying to bring what he saw as serious press behavior before a court. No matter which side people support, the timing could hardly have been worse. Imagine Harry leaving a meeting about veterans and immediately being surrounded by questions about a court defeat. Imagine him trying to keep the focus on the Invictus Games while journalists wanted to know about money, legal costs, and his reaction to the judgment. That is the reason the word nightmare began appearing in reports about the week. It was not because every part of the trip went badly. Harry attended several meaningful events and was warmly received by many people. But one difficult issue followed another so quickly that the positive moments struggled to receive attention. On Wednesday, Harry attended private meetings connected to the Invictus Games Foundation at the Royal Hospital, Chelsea. Meghan had originally been expected to join him, but Harry arrived alone. He entered the venue quietly, using a side route, while journalists and photographers waited nearby. Photographs released from inside showed him speaking with people and joining a group picture. Once again, Harry carried on with the work. But Meghan's absence said more than any public statement could have said. Had she attended, the images would have shown Harry and Meghan standing together in Britain, supporting veterans and looking towards the future. Instead, Harry's solo appearance became a reminder of everything that had gone wrong before the trip. This is where the claim that Meghan felt humiliated begins to make emotional sense. Meghan was not simply missing a social gathering. She had reportedly planned to stand beside Harry at an event connected to one of his most important projects. Then, because of concerns over safety and the public disagreement with the palace, she was forced to change those plans. From Meghan's point of view, she may have felt placed in an impossible position. If she came to London without the protection the family wanted, critics could say she was exaggerating the danger. If she stayed away, critics could say she was afraid to face the British public or was not supporting Harry. If she spoke publicly, she could be accused of creating more tension. If she remained silent, other people would describe her feelings for her. That is the difficult reality of being Meghan Markle. Silence does not stop the stories. It creates an empty space that royal commentators, unnamed sources, and newspaper headlines are always ready to fill. There were even claims that Meghan was worried about the reaction she might receive from sections of the British public. Again, there has been no direct statement from Meghan confirming that she was frightened or unwilling to enter Britain. What we know is that security concerns affected the family's plans and that Meghan did not attend Harry's London engagements. The rest is a mixture of reporting, interpretation, and opinion. Harry then travelled to Birmingham, where the tone of his visit became warmer. On 9 July, he visited Birmingham Children's Hospital to mark the 20th anniversary of the first well-child nurse. Harry has supported Well-Child for many years. The organization helps children and young people with complex medical needs receive care at home whenever possible. At the hospital, Harry met children, families, and staff members. He spoke with warmth and humor. He joked about how different he looked when he first became involved with Wellchild, before the beard and changes to his hair. The visit reminded people why Harry was once one of the most popular members of the royal family. He has a natural ability to make formal occasions feel less stiff. He is often at his best around children, military families, and people facing difficult circumstances. One hospital representative said, "Harry's presence created a positive atmosphere and gave staff a welcome lift at a challenging time." That mattered. Away from the palace disagreements and court reports, Harry was doing the kind of work he had traveled to Britain to do. He was meeting people, listening to their stories, and using his public profile to draw attention to an important cause. Harry also spoke about how Wellchild became more personal to him after he became a father. He remembered attending a Wellchild event with Meghan before they publicly announced that they were expecting their first child. At that time, they held hands and thought about what it would mean to become parents. That memory quietly brought Meghan back into the story, even though she was not standing beside him. Behind the public schedule, something even more important was happening. Harry was reportedly working hard to bring Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet to Britain for a private meeting with King Charles. The children had not seen their grandfather in person since 2022. 4 years is a long time in the life of a child. When King Charles last saw them, Archie was much younger and Lilibet was still very small. Now, Archie is 7 and Lilibet is 5. They are old enough to ask questions about Britain. They are old enough to understand that their grandfather is the king. They are also old enough to begin noticing that their father's family lives thousands of miles away. Harry has publicly expressed concern that his children are growing up without a close connection to his British heritage. He has said he wants them to know the country that shaped him. But that wish comes with painful complications. Britain is where Harry was born. It is where he attended school, served in the military, and carried out royal duties. It is also where he walked behind his mother's coffin as a 12-year-old boy. It is where his relationship with the press became one of the most difficult parts of his life. For Harry, returning home does not bring one simple feeling. It brings pride, duty, grief, love, anger, and memory, all at once. Bringing Archie and Lilibet back was therefore about more than arranging a short family visit. It meant allowing them to enter the part of his life he has spent years trying to explain. Reports said Meghan and the children traveled from Portugal to Britain on 9 July. They did not make public appearances. The plan was kept private, partly because of the security concerns that had already caused so much disagreement. Then came the moment that changed the week. On Friday, 10 July, Harry, Meghan, Archie, and Lilibet traveled to Highgrove House in Gloucestershire. There, they met King Charles and Queen Camilla. According to people's account of the reunion, it was the first time the king had seen his California-based grandchildren in 4 years. After the arguments, court disappointment, and public embarrassment, Harry had finally achieved the personal goal at the center of the visit. Archie and Lilibet were with their grandfather again. There were no official family photographs released. There was no public walk before the cameras. There was no detailed palace statement explaining what everyone said inside the house. And perhaps that was exactly what the family needed. For years, almost every development involving Harry, Meghan, and the royal family has become public material. Private conversations have been discussed in interviews, documentaries, books, and newspaper reports. Every gesture is examined for hidden meaning. Every absence is interpreted as an insult. At Highgrove, the family appears to have chosen privacy. The location was meaningful. Highgrove is not simply one of the king's residences. It has been Charles's beloved country home for decades. It is closely connected to his interest in gardening, conservation, and the natural world. Harry also spent time there as a child. By meeting at Highgrove instead of holding a formal gathering at Buckingham Palace, Charles may have created a more relaxed environment. This was not an official royal event. It was a grandfather meeting his grandchildren, a father seeing his son, and two families entering the same room after years of distance. Queen Camilla's presence was also important. Harry has written openly about his difficult feelings regarding Camilla and the effect her relationship with Charles had on his childhood. Those comments created pain and tension. Yet Camilla is now the Queen and a central part of Charles's life. A source quoted in the reporting made the position clear. There can be no genuine relationship with Charles that completely excludes Camilla. For Harry, this may be one of the hardest parts of reconciliation. Healing a relationship with his father also means accepting the reality of his father's marriage. Meghan's presence at Highgrove carried equal importance. Reports had suggested that she might stay away from Britain entirely. Instead, she traveled with the children and entered a private royal residence to meet the King and Queen. That does not look like a woman completely closing the door. Meghan may have felt uncomfortable about the security dispute. She may have felt embarrassed by the public arguments. But when the opportunity came for Archie and Lilibet to see their grandfather, she supported the meeting. That decision deserves attention, because it shows the story was more complicated than the most dramatic headlines suggested. If Meghan's only goal had been to keep Harry and the children completely separated from the royal family, she could have remained in Portugal or returned directly to California. Instead, she made the journey. She stayed away from the public engagements, but attended the private family meeting. That suggests Meghan may have been drawing a clear line between royal publicity and family relationships. She did not want to take part in a public royal appearance without the security arrangements she considered necessary, but she was willing to support a private reunion in a controlled setting. The meeting may also have been deeply emotional for King Charles. The King is now 77. Since his cancer diagnosis in 2024, questions about time, family, and reconciliation have become more urgent. Charles has spent most of his life preparing for the throne. He became king after the passing of Queen Elizabeth II and took on the responsibility at an age when many people would already be enjoying retirement. He has continued with public duties while receiving medical care. Throughout that period, the distance between him and Harry has remained a painful part of the family story. Charles had seen Harry only a small number of times since the diagnosis. Seeing Archie and Lilibet again may have reminded him of how much of their childhood he had missed. Grandchildren grow quickly. A video call can help maintain a connection, but it cannot replace sitting in the same room, sharing a meal, hearing their laughter, or watching them explore a familiar family home. We do not know exactly what happened during the meeting. We should not invent private conversations, but the fact that it took place is meaningful on its own. Sometimes reconciliation does not begin with a grand apology. Sometimes it begins with people agreeing to enter the same room. The Highgrove meeting did not solve every problem. Harry's security dispute remains unresolved. The court defeat has not disappeared. Questions about trust between the Sussexes and the palace remain. Harry and Meghan are not returning as working royals, and there is no reliable evidence that they plan to do so. Most importantly, Harry's relationship with Prince William remains deeply damaged. According to People's reporting on the brothers, there was no serious expectation that Harry and William would meet during the trip. A source described the relationship as badly broken and said there had been no movement towards reconciliation. At one point, the brothers were carrying out separate activities only a short distance apart. Yet that physical closeness did not lead to a private conversation. On the same day Harry's family met King Charles at Highgrove, William attended his annual charity polo match with Catherine, Princess of Wales. The contrast was striking. Harry was quietly trying to repair one royal relationship, while another remained frozen. The distance between the brothers is now affecting their children. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis reportedly have no meaningful relationship with Archie and Lilibet. That may be one of the saddest parts of the entire story. William and Harry shared a childhood shaped by royal expectations and the loss of their mother, Princess Diana. For many years, they appeared united. They attended events together, supported each other, and spoke about their mother with a shared understanding few other people could have possessed. Now their children are growing up on opposite sides of the Atlantic. Diana's grandchildren carry her family connection, but some of them barely know one another. Harry has said he wants reconciliation. In a BBC interview in 2025, he said there was no point in continuing to fight. But reconciliation cannot happen through one person alone. William may believe too much private family information has been made public. Harry may believe the royal family has not fully understood his concerns or accepted responsibility for what he and Meghan experienced. Both brothers may feel they are the injured person. That is what makes the disagreement so difficult to resolve. When two people are waiting for each other to apologize first, silence can last for years. King Charles may now be the bridge between them. If his relationship with Harry continues to improve, he could create future opportunities for the brothers to speak. But Charles cannot force two grown men to trust each other again. The Highgrove reunion therefore represents progress, but limited progress. It is one open door inside a house where several other doors remain locked. After the family meeting, Harry continued with his charity work. He attended a summer festival organized by Scotty's Little Soldiers, a charity supporting children who have lost a parent who served in the armed forces. The event allowed Harry to show a lighter side. He took part in activities, laughed with children, and even joined a goat yoga session. He also faced water balloons on an inflatable course. These moments were playful, but the purpose of the organization was serious. Harry knows what it means to lose a parent during childhood. Diana's passing changed his life, and he has spoken about carrying that grief into adulthood. During the festival, a 9-year-old girl asked Harry what made him laugh when he was having a difficult day. The question touched him immediately. He explained that his children help him. Spending time with Archie and Lilibet, playing with them and holding them close, can bring comfort during challenging moments. That answer gave the public a small look at the man behind the royal story. In the newspapers, Harry is often presented as a prince, fighting the palace, challenging the press, or demanding security. At the charity event, he was simply a father, speaking to a child about difficult days. That contrast is important. The week was not entirely a nightmare. It contained real disappointment, but it also contained service, family, and hope. Harry lost an important court case, but he continued appearing at events. His accommodation became the subject of public disagreement, but he did not abandon the visit. Meghan stayed away from London, but she later brought the children to Britain. King Charles had been separated from his grandchildren, but he finally saw them again. Harry did not meet William, but he took a step towards healing his relationship with his father. This is why the headline about a nightmare and a humiliated Meghan tells only one part of the story. Yes, the visit became far more difficult than Harry and Meghan probably expected. Their plans changed at short notice. Private disagreements became public. Meghan's absence attracted criticism. Harry faced an uncomfortable legal defeat while standing before the world's cameras. But the week did not end with Harry leaving Britain alone and angry. It ended with Archie and Lilibet having a fresh memory of their grandfather. It ended with Meghan sitting in the same private family setting as Charles and Camilla. It ended with Harry returning to the causes that have remained important to him for years. That does not remove the humiliation described by unnamed sources. It does not solve the security issue or repair Harry's relationship with William, but it changes the emotional balance of the visit. The story began with separation and ended with a reunion. There is also a bigger question about what Harry and Meghan do next. The couple have made it clear that California is their home. Their children attend school there, and Meghan's business interests are based in the United States. Harry's charitable work is international, and the couple are financially independent from the royal family. A return to full-time royal duties appears extremely unlikely. But there is a difference between returning to royal duties and rebuilding family relationships. Harry can remain in California and still want his children to know King Charles. Meghan can continue building her own career and still support private family meetings. Charles can protect the institution of monarchy while also acting as a father and grandfather. The challenge will be keeping those private relationships away from public conflict. Trust will be the central issue. The palace may worry that private discussions could later appear in an interview or book. Harry and Meghan may worry that private information about them could be shared with friendly newspapers. If every conversation is followed by a different version in the media, reconciliation will remain fragile. The Highgrove meeting worked because it happened privately. There were no official photographs and very few confirmed details. That privacy may be the model the family needs to follow. Small meetings, no public promises, and no pressure to pretend that everything is perfect. The public does not need to see every embrace for it to be meaningful. Harry's visit also showed that his connection to Britain has not disappeared. He may live in California, but Britain remains part of his identity. The Invictus Games, Well Child, Scotty's Little Soldiers, and his military service all connect him to the country. The warm response he received at his charitable events also demonstrated that public opinion is not as simple as newspaper headlines sometimes suggest. Some people strongly criticize Harry and Meghan. Others support them. Many people are somewhere in the middle. They may disagree with the couple's decisions while still respecting Harry's work with veterans and children. That middle ground rarely receives attention because conflict attracts more interest. A headline saying, "Harry completes several useful charity engagements," will never create the same reaction as a headline about a nightmare, humiliation, or royal disagreement. But both sides of the story matter. Harry had a difficult week. Meghan reportedly found the public situation painful and embarrassing. The palace and Sussex representatives clearly did not manage every arrangement smoothly. At the same time, Harry showed commitment to his charitable work, and Meghan supported a meaningful reunion between her children and their grandfather. Two things can be true at once. A visit can be badly organized and still produce one beautiful family moment. A person can feel humiliated by public events and still make a private decision that brings people together. A father can remain hurt by his family and still want his children to know where he came from. That is the real heart of this story. The nightmare was not simply a cancelled room, a security disagreement, or a court decision. The real nightmare was the possibility that another visit would pass without King Charles seeing Archie and Lilibet. The humiliation was not simply Meghan missing a public event. It was the feeling that, after years of trying to control their own lives, the couple were once again caught inside a royal argument playing out before the world. But the hopeful moment was stronger than expected. When Harry, Meghan, and the children entered Highgrove, the week stopped being only about institutions, titles, and legal battles. It became a family story. King Charles was no longer only the monarch, he was a grandfather. Harry was no longer only the Duke of Sussex, he was a son bringing his children home. Meghan was no longer only the woman described in dramatic headlines, she was a mother, supporting a reunion that mattered to her family. And Archie and Lilibet were not symbols in a royal disagreement. They were two young children, spending time with their grandfather. The question now is whether that private meeting will become the beginning of something larger. Will Charles and Harry speak more often? Will the king see Archie and Lilibet again before another 4 years pass? Will Meghan feel safe and comfortable enough to return to Britain in the future? And most importantly, will Harry and William eventually find a way to sit together without advisors, newspapers, or cameras shaping the moment? Nobody can honestly answer those questions yet. What we can say is that this visit proved reconciliation is not impossible. It may be slow, it may be uncomfortable. It may happen behind closed doors rather than before cheering crowds. But the Highgrove meeting showed that even after years of public disagreement, the family can still find a reason to gather. Harry's trip may have turned into a nightmare in several ways, and Meghan may have felt humiliated by how the arrangements unfolded. Yet the visit also gave the Sussex family something they had been missing for 4 years: time with the king as a father and grandfather. That may not erase the pain, but it gives everyone a place from which to begin again.